Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtapraeshu Abandreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Om Ajnanatirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namini Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharini Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji's Mataji's. Welcome to this morning's discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhakti Vaibhav, Canto 1, Chapter 6. Narada's conversation with Srila Vyasadeva, where Srila Vyasadeva is inquiring further into Narad Muni's life. So we'll be going through this, and this chapter, as we discussed last time, will be the last chapter for this wonderful dialogue. Next chapter, beginning of the chapter 7, text 10 or 11, around there, Narad Muni's episode, the conversation with Srila Vyasadeva will conclude, and then next part of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the birth and activities of Maharaj Parikshit, that would begin. So last time we were discussing about Narad Muni, how after the Bhakti Vedantas departed, the real application of the learnings which Narad Muni had received from the association and hearing from Bhakti Vedantas, that application literally started. And we saw how Narad Muni was the son of a maidservant who was a single mother, a widow, and she did not have any other person in her life apart from her small child, and the child did not have any other shelter apart from his mother. And we learned about different characteristics of the mother, how she was a very simple lady, maidservant, ignorant, and although she wanted to offer the best of the facilities to her child, she could not because of the circumstances. And we also saw, just before concluding the discussion, how the only shelter which Narad Muni had, his own mother, she was taken away by the very specific arrangement of the Lord, and we'll dwell a bit more. And by taking her out from Narada's life, Lord, in a way, did favor to both the mother as well as the son. We discussed how if mother would have been there, it would not have been possible for Narada Muni to give up everything and to take devotional service full time. And even for the mother, because of the sneha pasha, because of the knots of affection for her son were too strong, it would not have been possible for her to advance and Narad Muni to devote himself full time. And we will see in today's text, what did Narada Muni do after his mother was taken away by the Lord, by the mother getting a snake bite when she was going in the evening to milk the cow? So any question, comment so far, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, before we proceed? Hare Krishna. Make me or Pran Prabhu host. Okay. So let me just quickly mark the attendance list. All right. And we also saw in as part of the classroom discussion how different persons, they resort to different shelters whenever there are adverse circumstances. We saw how some people, they go into depression, some people take shelter of various intoxicants, but a pure devotee of the Lord, he sees the hand of the Lord in each and every thing that happens in his life, and as a result he has a complete faith that the intelligence of the Lord always supersedes our tiny intelligence. So whatever the Lord arranges in the life of a devotee, if we take it in a proper spirit, it will gradually take us closer to Krishna. And we saw various examples. Basically, this was the verse which we had seen last time, that when Lord wants to offer his special mercy upon his great devotee, it is like a person is just about to reach complete perfection in his life, he is at 80 or 90%, and Krishna wants to bring it to 100%. Then he would take away every other shelter in that devotee's life, so that the devotee has nobody else, even the swajana, even the near and dear ones, so-called near and dear ones, they will leave the person's company, and the devotee will have nobody else to take shelter of than Lord Krishna himself. And in that helpless circumstance, the devotee would devote himself completely. And we saw the example from the householder life of Srila Prabhupada. How Srila Prabhupada, his spouse, Prabhupada's wife's name was Radharani. So his spouse was not very supportive in his spiritual practice. And in the later stage of his householder life, when the children were grown up, he saw that this particular non-cooperation from the spouse, and especially when she sold off Srila Prabhupada's commentary on Bhagavad Gita, so first commentary that he had written, he sold all those prints in scrap just to get some money and buy tea and biscuits. And Srila Prabhupada, Abhay Babu that time was not very happy. And finally, he considered all those arrangements as the supreme will of the Lord, where he wants to take away every other shelter, so that Abhay Babu devotes himself completely to fulfilling the mission that was given to him by his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So similarly, we also saw this verse from Bhagavatam, this particular chapter, chapter 6, where Narada Muni mentions Bhaktanam Sham Abhipashataha, Abhipsataha, not Abhipashata, Abhipsataha. That Lord is the supreme ever well-wisher of his devotees. He always wishes auspiciousness only for his devotees. And sometimes we may not understand what is truly auspicious or good for us, but we should at least have faith in the judgment, in the discretion of the Lord, and try to understand it gradually, even if we can't understand immediately. And we also saw the story of Dhruva Maharaj, that how in the adverse circumstances, when Dhruva was insulted by his stepmother, Suruchi, his own mother, first of all, what she did is she did not let that the feeling of being hurt in Dhruva Maharaj convert into the feeling of revenge. She pacified Dhruva by first saying, come what may, please don't desire anything bad or adverse for anyone. That should not be our mood. And then she pacified Dhruva further by saying how what his stepmother has said, although it might sound very cruel, but it is true that she is the pet queen of the husband, Maharaj Uttanapad, and unless Dhruva was to be born from her womb, he cannot sit on the lap of his father. And then subsequently, she guided Dhruva Maharaj to take shelter of Lord Vishnu by being his Patha Pradarshaka Guru, the spiritual master who shows one the path. So there are various types of spiritual master. And then we see that Dhruva Maharaj remembered all this when he finally got the Vaikuntha plane to bring him to Vaikuntha. He remembered his mother who showed him the path. Then we proceed. So one thing we saw is how each and every arrangement by the Lord is a special anugraha. Anugraha means special mercy of the Lord upon his devotee. Then we will see few more inspiring verses in this regard from Srimad Bhagavatam. Then we proceed. In Canto 10, Chapter 14, which are the prayers of Lord Brahma to Lord Krishna, there is a famous prayer, Tate Anukampam Susamiksha Mano, in which Lord Brahma says that, my dear Lord, such a devotee, while tolerating the adverse circumstances in his life, he does one more thing. He always remains grateful in his heart towards the Lord, continuing his devotional practice and awaits patiently the Lord's mercy in his life. If that mood the devotee develops in his life, then such a soul becomes a rightful candidate. Going back home, back to Godhead becomes his rightful claim. Such a person becomes completely qualified to go back to Godhead. So I am deliberately not, these are very important verses, but I am not deliberately reciting them to save some time. All of you can go through these verses and the purports later on. Then we see what happened to not Prahlad Maharaj, Narada Muni, after the mother left her body, because the inner calling within his heart to surrender to the Lord was so strong. One thing we saw, Narada Muni immediately understood this particular mishap as the mercy of the Lord to bring him closer to the Supreme Lord, to enable Narad Muni's complete surrender to the Lord. And because of this sense of urgency, Narada Muni immediately left from the place. And in fact, in some of the classes, I have heard that our acharyas describe Narada even did not, and please don't take it in the other way, please let's not judge the great souls, otherwise it will be detrimental for our life. Let's try to understand, learn our lessons. Let's not think from the way of whether it should have happened or that should have happened. So Narada, it is also mentioned by the acharyas that he did not even perform the final rites of the mother. He straight away left to surrender himself. Basically, he had the complete faith that Krishna will arrange a very good destination for his mother in her spiritual journey. And this particular happening is not accidental. It is the arrangement of the Lord. So similarly, we see examples of many great personalities from Srimad Bhagavatam who also had this inner awakening, inner call to surrender to the Supreme Lord on an immediate basis. We see in the case of Dhruva Maharaj itself, after Dhruva Maharaj leaves, Maharaj Uttanapad becomes very, very resentful. He laments that why didn't I protest in front of my favorite queen to protect the dignity and honor of my child, and because of being hurt by her cruelty, my child has now left the house, and I don't know how is he going to survive in the forest where there are so many carnivorous and other dangerous animals. And it is so explained that Uttanapad Maharaj's heart became so transformed, maybe at a late stage, which is fine, but at least it became transformed. He became so repentful that before even Dhruva Maharaj returned and he became settled in his household life, before Dhruva Maharaj's marriage and getting settled, Uttanapad already decided to, what is the right word? Not repent, but correct his wrongdoing and take up to the full-time devotional service of the Lord, and he left home. Similarly, in the morning Srimad Bhagavatam short class, we discussed earlier about Prachetas, the sons of Maharaj Prachina Barhi. And we also learnt about how Prachina Barhi was an ardent fruity worker. He was such a fruity worker, being busy with conducting various sacrifices for material benefit, that the whole earth was filled with kusha grass everywhere. So he used to, before Prachina Bari will finish one sacrifice, he would already get the preparation done for the next. And so many animals were getting slaughtered. And finally, when Narada Muni transformed the heart of Prachina Bari through examples of King Puranjana, which was an allegory meant to be very similar to what Prachina Bari was doing in his life. Excuse me 1 second. We see, sorry, Prabhuji. We see that Prachina Bari, he got his heart transformed in such a way that even before the Prachetas returned home, he already left home to take full-time Krishna consciousness. So similarly, in this particular episode, Narada Muni, he did not want to wait even for a second. He subsequently left that place. In the subsequent verses, we will see what all did he go through finally before meditating on the Lord the way the Bhakti Vedantas had taught him, and subsequently getting the darshan. There are many examples, few I have quoted here. There is also the beautiful story of one of the great acharyas in the Vaishnava Sampradaya, Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, Srila Sridhar Swami. And he was considered by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as an authority on Srimad Bhagavatam. So in this particular Acharya's life also we see that Sridhar Swami, he was a great devotee of the Lord, and he also wanted to devote his life completely unto the service of the Lord. But what happened? His own wife, after she delivered the child, unfortunately, during the childbirth, because of the complications, the wife passed away after delivering the child. And then Sridhar Swami Maharaj, he was thinking, now he has the responsibility of taking care of the child. How can he surrender to the Lord? But then he saw one particular baby lizard. So baby lizard, have you seen, sometimes they are very, very small, in a way helpless, like they don't have the speed and the agility which the grown-up lizards have. And it's quite dangerous that, when they are crossing and all, you may not sometimes notice, and even inadvertently somebody may step on. So they are very vulnerable. But he saw a baby lizard which had taken birth a while ago, and she, while walking on the floor, she saw a small insect, and immediately the baby lizard stuck out its tongue and immediately caught the insect and got nourished. And Sridhar Swami was greatly amazed to see this baby lizard catching an insect. And he understood that the baby lizard is not taught by the mother, but Krishna has given the intelligence in such a way that he is sustaining each and every living entity. So if he can take care of the nourishment of the baby lizard, he would definitely not leave my child unattended. He would definitely arrange for the well-being as well. And developing renunciation in that particular way, subsequently Sridhar Swami left the home and took up full-time devotional service. So as I mentioned earlier, let's not judge the actions of these great souls. Let's try to just learn the lesson, and neither we should try to imitate their actions, because their faith and surrender to the Supreme Lord was at that particular level. So Krishna definitely did not let his devotees down. Like we see the example of Prahlad Maharaj. He had that faith that even when his father offered him the poison, Prahlad Maharaj he could see Lord Vishnu within that poison, and thus he did not get affected. But if we try to imitate Prahlad Maharaj, probably, because at least I can say in my case, because I don't have that much faith, we can't expect the same result. We would simply die if we try to imitate the activities of such great souls. But these great personalities were given that awakening and urgency by the Supreme Lord. Any questions queries, Prabhuji's, Mataji, so far? Hare Krishna.
Clear, Prabhu.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So material reversals are arranged by the Lord as a means. One reason I had mentioned a while ago, a devotee is at 80-90% of surrender, and last 10% Krishna wants to just bring him. So that is one scenario to look at it. Second is also to bring us out of our comfort zone. Sometimes in the discharge of the devotional service, we tend to see this material world as a, even unknowingly, while theoretically we may see that it is the place of miseries and lamentation, but behind the scenes in our subconscious mind, we may get into a comfort zone that I practice devotional service provided Krishna ticks all these boxes. The job goes on well, career progression goes as I want, children grow up as completely disciplined, obedient children, the spouse is completely supportive. So sometimes Krishna arranges material reversals just to shake us out of this comfort zone and for us to feel the necessity and the desperation to take shelter of Lord Krishna and immediately get out of this material world. So that is also a very important aspect, to not let a devotee get into a comfort zone in this material world. We see few devotees have raised their hand. Rasa Ragini Radhika Mataji, Hare Krishna. You wanted to share something?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. No, Prabhu. Actually, I just had a doubt on the previous subject only, Prabhu. You finish, I'll take it at the end, Prabhu. Not an issue.
Sure, sure. All right.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Shama Gopika Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Regarding the Sridhar Swami example, right? So, I was thinking because Sridhar Swami, you said that he had an infant child. So taking care of an infant child is also our duty, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
then if he left the infant child, and maybe we can also think in this way that Krishna had planned that he will be taking care of like infant child, and then he left him unattended. So is it not a sin? Like
In this definitely is not a thing to be followed in the normal circumstances, in our normal day-to-day circumstances. Yes, as a parent, it is our primary duty to understand each and every child that comes in our home as a opportunity given by the Lord to make that soul, train that soul in Krishna consciousness, and we should try to take best possible care to grow that child in Krishna consciousness. But Sridhar Swami's case was very special. So these are not ordinary personalities, Sridhar Swami. Like we said last time, in case of Prabhupada, if Prabhupada's wife in his householder life, Abhay Babu's wife, was cooperative, probably Mataji, you, me would not have come to Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada may not have got an opportunity to go to the West. So these are very special circumstances. These are not ordinary souls. So Krishna also deals in a very extraordinary manner, right? But these are definitely not examples for us to follow blindly, but learn our lesson. That how when that call for awakening was very strong, these devotees immediately felt a need to surrender 100%, right? But yes, so we can still surrender. It is not that we have to leave the child to be 100% surrendered to Lord Krishna, but these devotee circumstances were very, very special. All right. And same for Abhay Babu's life. Like it is not Prabhupada's many disciples did have challenges in their household life, but Prabhupada didn't ask them to straight away leave. So like one particular Mataji disciple, lady disciple of Srila Prabhupada, an Australian lady, she asked to Prabhupada what she should do that the husband is not cooperative at all. And Srila Prabhupada first advised that he may be non-cooperative. You practice your devotional service to the best of your ability and continue to serve him. Whether it accept to Krishna consciousness or not, you would definitely achieve perfection. So that was the general instruction. And I believe this last example is an exception. Okay. So let's proceed. Yes, Hare Krishna. So let's proceed. So how do we how one should accept the reversals in the life? We saw various prayers by the great devotees like Lord Brahma. One should accept those reversals as the mercy of the Lord, even if we can't say it immediately as how it is a mercy of the Lord. We should at least have faith that Lord's judgment stands supreme. That means even if now in my difficult situation, I may not be able to understand Krishna's judgment completely, I should at least be patient to live with it and still stay surrendered unto the Lord. And gradually, with the course of time, we may be able to understand why Krishna acted in a particular way, the way he acted. At least that much faith we should have. But one should not contest, one should not question Krishna's judgment, because that won't have the right prayer, right mood in ourselves. Any devotee would like to recite this prayer? Shama Gopika Mataji, want to recite?
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Reading Queen Kunti's prayer, SB 1, Canto 1, Chapter 8 and verse 41. अथ विश्वेश विश्वात्मन् विश्वमूर्ते स्वकेषु मे स्नेहपाशम् इमं चिन्ति दृढं पाण्डुषु वृष्णिषु.
Translation.
O Lord of the universe, soul of the universe, O personality of the form of universe, please therefore sever my tie of affection for my kinsmen, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis.
Thank you. Thank you, Mani. So this is another prayer by a great devotee of the Lord, Queen Kunti, where she is requesting Lord Krishna to sever the Sneha Pasha, to sever the tie of affection with her kinsmen, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. Pandavas and the Vrishnis means the connections both on the maternal side and on the side of the husband. So by sever the ties doesn't mean sever the relationships. Sever the ties means sever the ties of material affection. But remember those personalities, like all of Kunti's children, except for Karna, they were all pure devotees of the Lord. Karna also subsequently got purified. And same for Kunti's maternal side, including her connection with Vasudev and the Vrishni dynasty. So she definitely wants to have that connection, but on the platform of devotional service, on the platform of having Krishna in the center. But let that tie of affection does not remain on the platform of material relationship, that these are my children, these are my maternal relatives. That tie be severed. That is her prayer. We also see one more very graphic, and this is a very instructive example, how a pure devotee sees a specific hand of Lord Krishna in one particular happening in the life, and that should be the right way to look at things. So this example should be easier to understand. Srila Prabhupada had a Muslim disciple. He had quite a few Muslim disciples, few in India as well as few in places outside where Srila Prabhupada preached, like say for example Iran, Srila Prabhupada preached, and few people, local people there who carried the local faith, they also surrendered to Srila Prabhupada. And one such disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and I have heard this in one of the classes, so not exactly sure about the place, where did this disciple come from. So this person was a Muslim by birth, and his name was Dosha. That was his material name. Now Dosha doesn't mean fault that we know. In his own faith, I don't know what does it mean. So this Dosha Prabhu, he surrendered to Srila Prabhupada, took initiation. After initiation, he got the name Ram Ranjan Prabhu, one who enchants Lord Ramachandra. And he was chanting and everything. But because of the nature of his birth and circumstances, neither the family nor the community was very appreciative of he taking up to Krishna consciousness. And he had lot of opposition. Somehow he was surviving as such. There was no physical threat, but lot of opposition from family as well as community. And subsequently, it so happened that Ramaranjan Prabhu, he had an untimely death. Now the circumstances are not mentioned in that, but it was natural death only, not unnatural, but Krishna took him away. And when devotees came to know about this, they were quite saddened. And the family, the wife and the children, after Dosha Prabhu, Ramaranjan Prabhu left, Srila Prabhupada sent 2 letters. One letter he sent to Ramaranjan Prabhu's wife, and second letter Srila Prabhupada sent to the temple devotee community where Ramaranjan Prabhu was connected to, the local temple. And Srila Prabhupada gave different set of message in both these letters. To the devotees, Srila Prabhupada wrote that, look, Ramaranjan Prabhu or Ramaranjan Das, as Prabhupada would refer, he was a very nice devotee of Lord Krishna. And by taking him out of this world, Krishna in a way has done great favor to him. How? Because he was anyway having difficulty because of the resistance, hostile circumstances he was facing from his family side, from his community side, where it was not easy for him to practice devotional service that naturally and easily. So Krishna took him out of these difficult circumstances, and Krishna would definitely place him at a place, Srila Prabhupada wrote to the devotees, where as soon as Ramaranjan Prabhu opens his eyes after taking the next birth, he would see the family members, parents, with tilaka on their face. That means Prabhupada pointed out how he would be taking birth in a very, very favorable circumstance, where right from birth, he would have devotee association and upbringing, and it will be easy to natural for him to grow up and continue his devotional practice. On the other hand, when Srila Prabhupada wrote to the wife of Ramaranjan Prabhu, he mentioned to her that Ramaranjan Prabhu was very nice devotee, and you please don't feel helpless in your life because of his early untimely departure. We as a community of International Society for Krishna Consciousness and the local devotee temple community, they would provide all necessary support to you if you so wish, if you desire, if you allow us to. So he wrote these 2 different messages, one to the devotee community, another to the family. And Ramaranjan Prabhu's wife, who till that time was not very interested and taking up to devotional service, supporting her husband as such. But after his departure, after she received this letter from Srila Prabhupada, she had 2 options. One option was to continue her non-appreciation towards what Ramaranjan Prabhu had taken up in his life and continue materialistic life in the same setup, and probably be grudging towards what her husband had taken up. On the other hand, other option was to at least try to explore why did he decide to dedicate his life for this? Is there something substantial? And moreover, after her husband's departure, she felt that the devotees, although materially speaking strangers to her, they were coming out to support, but her own community members were still leaving her vulnerable. So after giving some thought, the lady, along with both her children, she decided to move into devotee community and make a conscious decision to try Krishna consciousness. And the children as well as the mother, they became integral part of the devotees and subsequently took up to Krishna consciousness. So if we look at this particular incidents about Ramaranjan Prabhu having an untimely death, from a materialistic point of view, definitely our judgment will be this devotee had just taken up to Krishna consciousness in such adverse circumstances. Why did Krishna give him death? That is the materialistic way of looking at it. Actually, ideally, Krishna should have supported him. But on the other hand, right way to look at this is not only Krishna adjusts the situation by putting him in a circumstance where it will be easier for Ramaranjan Prabhu to practice his Krishna consciousness. Through this overall evolving of the things, how it happened, Krishna also arranged a circumstance for the family to consider taking up Krishna consciousness. So immediate term, it may look like very cruel thing to do on behalf of Krishna, but from the right understanding way, how pure devotee of the Lord, Srila Prabhupada looked at it, it was all arrangement of the Lord for the betterment of both parties, Rama Ranjan Prabhu as well as his family. So one thing we should know is we should look at the thing holistically. Even if we don't understand complete plan of Lord Krishna, we should minimum have faith in his judgment, in his discretion, and not question that, doubt that. Any questions, Prabhuji? Hare
Prabhu,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Radhika here. I just one doubt in extension to the previous thing, Prabhu. Like you were talking about, like Kunti's case where she'll cut off ties with them, not in terms of relationship. My doubt is with Dhruva. Like, yeah, understood. Not in terms of relationship, but in terms of that over attachment, right? So that is what you were trying to explain. Now with Dhruva, if you notice at the time of death, right, he had this specification that he wanted his mother to also board the thing. Isn't that a sign of affection, Prabhu? That's a bit of a confusion which I wanted to clarify. Like Prahlad was clear. He wanted his father in spite of the fact that he was bad. But Dhruva's was very personal to his mother because of his love.
Affection as such is not bad when that affection is based on Krishna in the center. Dhruva did not want his mother to go back home, back to Godhead before him, not before him. Basically, he wanted to take his mother along with him. His affection towards his mother was because it was my mother who showed me the path to approach Lord Vishnu. Dhruva remembered her in gratitude for what she guided him towards. His affection to his mother was not based on the material relationship. That because she is my
more like a guru and she deserves that place if I go. That concept, right? Because got it.
Yes.
And also, Prabhu, one small doubt with respect to Prahlad, where he says, I don't want anything. Whereas he also says, request Vishnu, that is Narsimha, that can he liberate his father?
His father, yes.
So that also, Prabhu, but in fact, his father was opposite, right? Dhruva's is, I mean, I'm not able to understand, not questioning them. So if you may clarify, Hare Krishna. Prabhu.
Yeah. So two things to remember about Prahlad Maharaj. First of all, he was not willing to ask anything. Finally, that benediction that Prahlad Maharaj asked was to satisfy Lord Narsimhadev, because that was the request of the Lord, that not for your pleasure, for my satisfaction, you ask something. That was the trigger. Okay. Otherwise, he was not willing to ask. Secondly, why did Prahlad Maharaj ask for his father's deliverance? It is mentioned that it was Prahlad Maharaj's compassion upon his father. In fact, in one class, I heard from my spiritual master that nobody in the world loved Hiranyakashipu more than Prahlad Maharaj. Why? Because if he did not love his father, it would have been very easy that, father, you are going on path towards hell. Fine, I don't want to bother. It would have been most easy for him to just neglect the objection of his father towards worshipping Lord Vishnu and continue his devotional service in hiding or in seclusion. But he openly came out in front of his father about Lord Vishnu being the Supreme Lord, and that his father, who has fallen into the deep dark well of material life, take shelter of Lord Vishnu by going to Vrindavan, because he did not want his father to suffer in hell for eternity. So a devotee by nature is very compassionate, that although, my dear Lord, my father may be very cruel, very offensive, he may have tried everything to kill me, but still, please deliver him. So that mood of Prahlad Maharaj again is not out of material affection, but out of his compassion for his father, that he is fallen, I know, but if you so desire, allow him to take up devotional service in the long term. And Lord Narsimhadev also took it in that way by assuring Prahlad Maharaj that, Prahlad, forget about your father. 21 generations before and after, all are taken care. So don't worry about it at all. So again, this was out of compassion of Prahlad Maharaj, not out of the material affection.
So technically, even friends or anybody can come in this category, no problem.
Agree, true. So, which is true. And what to speak of just friends and near and dear ones? We see devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like Vasudev Dutt. asking favor of the Lord for the entire population of the universe. So there, the devotee's compassion can be even at that level. Of course, we again can't imitate, but we can definitely
Clear, Prabhu.
appreciate their mood. Hare Krishna.
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So there are few comments on the chat. If reversal happens in spiritual life, is that also to be understood as mercy of the Lord? Reversals happen in spiritual life when we are not attentive or careful. And definitely, Krishna would not want us to degrade or to reduce in our, or to have any halt in our surrender unto him. But typically the reversals happen either when we are not attentive in our sadhana practice or even in our sadachar. So sadhana, sadachar and seva. So typically in seva, even if there are some seva aparas that we studied in Bhakti Rasamrut Sindhu, but typically the repercussions are not as severe as the topmost are in sadachar and then in sadhana. If there are any negligence or gaps, then the reversals do come in spiritual life. But that is definitely not the mercy of the Lord. That is our own neglect. We have to be careful there. Is that all right, Reena Mataji? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So we proceed. Yes, subsequently, what does the boy Narada go through? We'll go through text 13. Any devotee would like to recite through the verse, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, quickly? Devotees who have not recited at all. Quick, Prabhuji's, Mataji. If not, we will spend lot of time. Shama Gopika Mataji. Yes, Mataji, please go through.
This text 6.12, Prabhu.
6:13.
Okay. Lala Venu Sharaspamba Ushaki Chakagavaram Ekaivapiyato Atraksham Vipinam Mahat Ghoram Pratibhaya Bhayakaram Yaluluka Shivajiram.
And you can read through the translation of both the 12th and 13th verse.
Okay. I passed through the hills and mountains full of reservoirs of various minerals like gold, silver, and copper, and through tracts of land with reservoirs of water filled with beautiful lotus flowers fit for the denizens of heaven, decorated with bewildered bees and singing birds. Next.
Yeah.
I then passed alone through many forests of rushes, bamboo, reeds, sharp grass, weeds, and caves, which were very difficult to go through alone. I visited deep, dark, and dangerously fearful forests, which were the play yards of snakes, owls, and jackals.
Yes, thank you. So we see Narada Muni passing through both places, the places which were filled with material prosperity, like various mountains and hills filled with gold, silver, copper, and other minerals, and very materially attractive places like the reservoirs of water filled with beautiful lotus flowers, which were almost like the heavenly planets, the places in the heavenly planets. As well as Narada Muni also passed through various difficult places which were filled with very dangerous animals, the places like dense forest and all, and which were very difficult to go through alone. Imagine Narada is a 5-year-old child. What to speak of 5-year-old child? Even for an adult, it will be a very scary scenario to go through such places. And he also visited deep, dark, and dangerously fearful forests, which were the play yards for the snakes, owls, and jackals. So from this, Prabhuji's Mataji's, what do we understand about Narada Muni by him visiting all these places? What are your thoughts? Try to recreating the scene in our eyes, in front
Abhayam
of our.
Prabhu,
Huh?
he's not scared at all. Abhayam, totally dependent on Krishna.
Yes. So yes, Mataji.
Yeah, Prabhuji, like Narad Muni is like very consistent in his devotional service. Even when there are like when he passed through the denizens of heaven, or all the when we pass through the very beautiful scenarios, or when we pass through very beautiful situations, then also his devotion, he was like determined in his devotion. And when he passed through these forests of very dangerous situations also, he was like determined in what his goal is, and he was not distracted by the reversals and
Yes, so we saw 2 points. Rasaragini Mataji mentioned that he was totally dependent on Krishna and not afraid of the situation. He had complete faith in the Lord. And Shama Gopika Mataji also rightly mentioned that he was totally focused on his goal, even when the outside circumstances were very captivating, attractive, or they were very scary, fearful. In both cases, Narada, as a 5-year-old boy, he focused on remained totally focused on his goal of attaining Lord Krishna. Maybe we'll have one more comment. Prema Prakash Haridas Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Narada Muni is a typical example of wandering mendicant or parivrajikacharyas. They are very keen on increasing the devotees and giving them opportunity to all the fallen souls. And that's why Narada even converted a hunter into a devotee. Let aside Dhruv Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj. And they are also very interested in sanctifying and purifying people and the places. And that's why they visit all around and make the place sanctified and purified. And so also the pilgrimages where lots of men and women come and bathe and leave their sins and reactions there, which are neutralized by these wandering people like Narad Muni. Hare
Yes,
Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you for sharing this, Prem Prakash Haridas Prabhuji. However, we see Narada has not yet attained that platform, right? He is still he is right now a student who is just about to crack the JEE, not yet become a IIT graduate. But what you mentioned is a platform where Narad Muni has already achieved the transcendental level. In this case, we are seeing Narada as a 5-year-old sadhaka, right? So we see, as all of you have mentioned correctly, that we see he is very fearless and completely dependent on the Lord and focused on his goal of achieving Lord Krishna. He is not distracted either by the captivating places or by the fearful circumstances. And there are few examples from the scriptures where the devotees have taken up this path of being completely fearless and 100% dependence on the Lord without bothering about even in their about their own bodily maintenance. We see example in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Prahlad Maharaj, after he achieved perfection and he started ruling the kingdom, one time while wandering through his kingdom, while wandering through the forest, he came across Avadhuta Brahmana, who gave him wonderful instructions about life. And Prahlad Maharaj himself, being a great devotee, it takes one to know one. So Prahlad Maharaj, on his platform of exclusive devotional service to Lord Krishna, it was very easy for him to appreciate Avadhut that he met. Lord Rishabdev's example that we see, the father of Maharaj Bharat, that he was wandering through the cities and the forest as a wandering mendicant, completely oblivious to the external circumstances, and people would consider him as a madman, but he was an incarnation of the Lord, and even in the form on this earth, he was completely a liberated personality. We see Maharaj Jadabhara's example, which we have discussed earlier. And we also see Narada Muni himself later on in his life as the empowered personality with Bhakti Shakti, with the power of devotional service, power to spread devotional service. Narada Muni inspiring so many personalities like the sons of Daksha to take up this path of complete dependence on the Supreme Lord, the Haryashvas and the Shavalashvas, the sons of Daksha, towards path of renunciation. So coming back to Srila Prabhupada's purport, Srila Prabhupada explains how it is the duty of a mendicant to be completely dependent on the Supreme Lord, on the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Any devotee would like to read through this part of the purport? Hare Krishna. Gita, Pradeep, Mataji, all of you can keep your hands on so that next subsequently I can request you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yes.
It is the duty of a mendicant Parivrajacharya to experience all varieties of God's creation by traveling alone through all forests, hills, towns, villages, etc., to gain faith in God and strength of mind, as well as to enlighten the inhabitants with the
Message of
God. A sannyasi is duty bound to take all these risks without fear, and the most typical sannyasi of the present age is Lord Chaitanya, who traveled in the same manner through the central Indian jungles, enlightening even the tigers, bears, snakes, deers, elephants, and many other jungle animals. In this age of Kali,
you can read only the highlighted part.
Yeah. One should, however, take the vow to stop social intercourse completely and devotee life exclusively to the service of the Lord. In this age, devotional service of hearing and repeating the holy glories of the Lord is strongly recommended, and one who takes the vow of renunciation of family life need not imitate the Parivrajacharya like Narada or Lord Chaitanya, but may sit down at some holy place and devote his whole time and energy to hear and repeatedly chant the holy scriptures left by the great acharyas like six Goswamis of Vrindavanam.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So in the first part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada is discussing about the Parivrajacharya, a traveling mendicant who is completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord for his sustenance. So Srila Prabhupada mentions how in the traditional Vedic culture, it was very important for such traveling mendicants to develop the spirit of renunciation and complete dependence on the Supreme Lord. Even now, we see not exactly up to this level because there are hardly that type of jungles and all, but there is still a Hare Krishna.
The word starting with?
I'm muting.
Okay, thank you. So there are still the practices followed in few temples for the new brahmacharis when they join the ashram. For 1 month or 2 month period, they need to join a group of devotees bus party who travels from villages to villages with basic facilities for sustenance, like making prasadam, etc., distributing book and sharing the holy name of the Lord, sharing Krishna consciousness with the general public. Why? So as to develop this mood of complete dependence on the Lord, that if Krishna wants to sustain me, Krishna wants to support my living on this earth when I am engaged in his service, then let me develop that mood of complete dependence. So this mood, Srila Prabhupada stresses, is very, very important for a traveling mendicant. But in the concluding part, Srila Prabhupada also mentions that in the modern day and age, it may not be practically possible for a person to follow exactly the Vedic times. And as a result, the same mood of renunciation can also be engaged if we simply engage ourselves in hearing and chanting about the Lord, sitting in a holy place, specifically various temple communities, so many temples that we have, and the devotee communities in those temples. So spending our time and energy in serving that community in the mood of renunciation is as good as the traveling mendicants taking up to the path of complete dependence on Lord Krishna. Here I have also mentioned some notes. Let me see. It is not opening now, Krishna. Yeah, so discharging the duties of a sannyasi in this age of Kali, where we may not necessarily give up everything and go to the forest, but even staying in a devotee community, one can still achieve the same perfection if we engage our time and energy in properly serving the devotee community in this mood. One can devote his whole time and energy to hear and chant the holy scriptures left by the great acharyas. So we proceed. Let me see on the slide. So not all these verses we will go through, only some part. Thus traveling, this is Narada Muni telling Vyasadeva. Thus traveling, I felt tired. I guess some of you had raised your hand. Reena Mataji, you want to read through?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
A traveling mendicant. From there I have to study.
You can read through the translation and then purport.
Okay. Translation. Thus traveling, I felt tired, both bodily and mentally, and I was both thirsty and hungry. So I took a bath in a river lake and also drank water. By contacting water, I got relief from my exhaustion. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. A traveling mendicant can meet the needs of the body, namely thirst and hunger, by the gifts of nature without being a beggar at the doors of the householders. The mendicant, therefore, does not go to the house of a householder to beg, but to enlighten him spiritually. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. And this point we had also seen earlier in case of Shukadev Goswami, that he doesn't go to a householder's place to beg. He goes in the name of getting some milk or some charity, but the real purpose is to enlighten the householder. And this mood of complete renunciation, that whatever such a traveling mendicant, a Parivrajaka has the basic needs, all these needs are naturally met by the nature itself, by Mother Nature. He doesn't really need to depend on favor of anybody external in this particular world. So there are beautiful set of verses, but my only request, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, is don't take these verses literally. Like, don't let this mood of renunciation come in suddenly, because we need to have that maturity level in our own Krishna consciousness and also conviction in Lord Krishna. Both are right now at a very baby infant stage in us. So consider this as instruction, not imitation. So there are few beautiful sets of verses. Hang on now. Yes, in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a beautiful description by Shukadev Goswami that he mentions that what are the needs of our body, they can easily be fulfilled by the arrangements of the nature. We don't really need any other favors or arrangements in this life. Prema Priya Jayashree Mataji, you want to read through this part when there are ample?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Simplifying our life in total dependence, devotion to Lord. Nature provides everything required. One doesn't need to beg. A traveling mendicant can meet the needs of the body, namely thirst and hunger, by the gifts of nature without being a beggar at the doors of the householders. The mendicant, therefore, does not go to the house of a householder to beg, but to enlighten him spiritually. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.6.14 purport. When there are ample earthly flats to lie on, what is the necessity of cots and beds? When one can use his own arms, what is the necessity of a pillow? When one can use the palms of his hands, what is the necessity of varieties of utensils? When there is ample covering or the skins of trees, what is the necessity of clothing? Are there no torn clothes lying on common roads? Do the trees which exist for maintaining others no longer give alms in charity? Do the rivers being dried up no longer supply water to the thirsty? Are the caves of the mountains now closed? Or above all, does the Almighty Lord not protect the fully surrendered souls? Why then do the learned sages go to flatter those who are intoxicated by hard-earned wealth? Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Isn't this very inspiring, Prabhuji's, Mataji's?
Yes,
Bhagavatam
Prabhuji.
is telling us literally that whatever we need for our sustenance in a way is already provided by Mother Nature, already provided by the Lord through Mother Nature. So one doesn't need to flatter and beg the materialistic persons in this world for basic survival. Of course, this is a very high platform of renunciation. But if not this, at least we should develop some level of renunciation that our dependence on the materialistic society should be reduced. It should not be much that, so I'll give you an example. What do I mean by having too much dependence on the materialistic way of life? Say, for example, if a devotee is traveling in a train and by specific arrangement of the Lord, the mobile has the battery remaining is very less and the charger is not working and all, we cannot become helpless or disturbed to an extent where we don't know how to practice our devotional services. Mobile is discharged. Boss, tomorrow the mobile can be lost. Our devotional service is not dependent on the mobile or any other material arrangement. Our hands are there, bead bag is there, books are there. We can consider rendering devotional service without even having without even having any of these material facilities. One example more I would mention, there is a very nice book by a devotee from Russia. All of us, we know that Russia earlier, it was a very strongly communist, it had a very strong communist administration and the government. Even now, it has quite restrictions, but still much better than earlier times. And many of the devotees who used to practice in the iron age, where there were so many constraints and the restrictions, devotees were not given any facilities. They were simply put in prison. And they used to apply tilak by using toothpaste on their body because no tilak was provided. And devotees made beads, chanting beads, by mixing the bread that used to get as their food with water and drying them up and preparing beads out of it. And using those beads, they used to chant the holy name of the Lord. So the point is, of course, that is a very high level of renunciation. But point is, minimum dependence on the materialistic society for our needs. Whatever we need for our practice of Krishna consciousness, Krishna takes care more or less. We should have complete faith. And here, Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji.
I'm just reminded of, what Prabhupada has said in Bhagavad Gita. He
Yes,
has said a cow and a piece of land is sufficient, not even begging. It is they are sufficient for survival of anyone on this earth.
Yes, thank you, P.S. Murthy Prabhuji. And one point I wanted to mention, most of the pictures that I take, they are directly available on Google, which I put on the slides. However, these specific beautiful photos of Narada's life as a young boy, I have taken from His Grace Radheshyam Prabhu's YouTube presentation. So credit to Radheshyam Prabhuji. So we proceed. We go to the next verse first. This verse is important. I believe. Okay, noted, Murli Prabhuji. So that is fine. Who is the next? Rohini Mataji, you want to recite? Recite this verse is important. Text 15.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Tasmin nirmanjuranye. Prabhuji,
You want to
it's
see
hard.
the?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on now. 15. Is this better? The Devanagari?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Tasmin nirmanjune ranye pippalopastha ashritaha atman natmanam atmastham yatha shrutam anchitayam
Achintayam.
achintayam.
Translation.
After that, under the shadow of a banyan tree in an uninhabited forest, I began to meditate upon the supersoul situated within, using my intelligence as I had learned from the liberated souls.
Yes, ma'am. And the purport.
Purport. One should not meditate according to one's personal whims. One should know perfectly well from the authoritative principles of scriptures through the transparent medium of a bona fide spiritual master and by the proper use of one's trained intelligence for meditating upon the super soul dwelling within every living being. This consciousness is firmly developed by a devotee who has rendered loving service unto the Lord by carrying out the orders of spiritual master. Should I continue, Prabhuji?
Yes, there is only one line. You can
Yeah.
continue.
Sri Narad Ji contacted bona fide spiritual masters, served them sincerely, and got enlightenment rightly. Thus, he began to meditate. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So now Narada Muni, after traveling through all these places which were very attractive as well as places which were very scary, has finally come to a dense forest and under a banyan tree. I don't know whether it is banyan tree or peepal tree. What is mentioned? Banyan tree. Under a banyan tree, he has sat down to meditate upon the super soul within using the method which he had learned from the Bhakti Vedantas. And the third line of this particular verse is mentioned, Atmana Atmanam Atmastham. That first Atmana, that means using the intelligence that he had got from Krishna, as well as the way he had learned the meditation from the Bhakti Vedantas, he started meditating on Atmanam. Atmanam, the second Atmanam refers to the super soul, Lord Krishna within the heart. And Atmastham, what type of super soul? One who is residing within our heart, within himself. So the soul, the super soul, and the intelligence all are being referred to by the word Atma. We also see some places Atma word is also used to refer to the mind. So in general, it means the soul, but in special cases, it also refers to the super soul, the Paramatma, as well as intelligence or the mind. And the example can be understood just like a coconut, the green coconut, which is raw coconut. It has the brown coconut shell within it, and within the coconut shell, we have the coconut pulp and the coconut water. And all of it can, in general, commonly being referred to as, can be commonly referred to as coconut itself. But we understand the meaning between these three particular forms. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions how Narada Muni, what is the speciality of his meditation on the Lord? Yatha Shrutam Achintayam. Let me go back to the word-to-word translation. Yatha Shrutam, as Narada Muni had learned from the Bhakti Vedantas how to meditate on the Supreme Lord. Yatha Shrutam Achintayam. Using that particular method that Narad Muni had picked up from the Bhakti Vedantas, he started meditating on the Lord. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions how we cannot meditate on the Supreme Lord based on our own whims. We should always do Sharanam. Anu Sharanam means by following the path shown by our predecessor Acharyas. One should know perfectly well from the authoritative sources of the scriptures through the transparent medium of a bona fide spiritual master and by proper use of one's trained intelligence for meditating upon the super soul dwelling within every living entity. So he started meditating on the Lord, and now something very special happens to him. Let's see who is the devotee next. Rina Mataji, you read earlier?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, you can read
Prabhu,
again.
just
Yes, P.S. Murthy Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu,
Yes,
you
Prabhu.
mentioned about Atma, soul and super soul. It also refers to body, and in Bhagavad Gita, in one of the purports, Prabhupada writes Atma and soul. These two are separate words that are given. So, the Atma is different from soul.
Okay, so Prabhuji,
And
as Mhm.
Atma, I did some, work on that to find out what is Atma, what is soul. So Atma is mistranslated actually as soul. The correct translation of the word probably is self.
Okay, thank you. So
That is what.
Thank you, Prabhuji. However, to avoid confusion for the devotees, Atma and soul, these words have been used interchangeably throughout Srila Prabhupada's translation. So let's not confuse it. My explanation of the word Atma here was specifically for this particular verse 15, where 3 times the word Atma was being used to refer to soul, super soul, and one's intelligence. So
And body also Prabhupada uses.
Yeah, at other places.
And the point I was making was, Prabhu, the point is, Prabhupada has also used Atma and soul differently. On the same sentence, he says Atma and soul.
Yeah, in few places. In general, I am saying, I just want to...
Not used it interchangeably. He's also used it separately in one of the purports of Bhagavad Gita.
Understand, Prabhuji. Thank you. So let me come back to where we were. Sorry. After Narad Muni has begun his meditation based on Yatha Shrutam Achintayam, based on the method that he had learnt from the Bhakti Vedantas, now what happens? So let's proceed. Narad Muni starts meditation using this method, and what happens? Namita Mataji, you proceed with the verse, text 16. You are comfortable with English or you want to see Devanagari?
No, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Purport?
You can recite the verse 16, text 16.
Okay, Prabhuji. ध्यायतश्चरणाम्भोजं भावनिर्जितचेतसा
Outkantya.
No, Prabhuji. So everybody will repeat or just?
You can recite, that's fine.
ध्यायतश्चरणाम्भोजं भावनिर्जितचेतसा औत्कण्ठ्याश्रुत कलाक्षस्य हृद्यासीन्मे शनैर्हरिः. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Dhyayatas charanam bhojam. Narada, he started meditating on the charanam bhojam, on the lotus feet of the Lord. Bhava nirjita chetasa, and with lot of feelings and mind completely transformed on the transcendental love for the Lord, Narad Muni started his meditation. And he was very eager. Outkantya. Outkantya comes from the word utkantha, which means very eager, being very eager. So Outkantya Ashru Kala Kasya, and he was very eager, and the tears were rolling down his cheeks because of his eagerness to see the Lord. He got finally the darshan of the Lord within his heart. Rudi Asin me Shanair Hari. Shanair, Srila Prabhupada translates as without any further delay. Immediately, Narada Muni got the darshan of the Lord within his heart. Namita Mataji, you can read through the translation.
Yes, Prabhu. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. As soon as I begin to meditate upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead with my mind transformed in transcendental love, tears rolled down my eyes, and without delay, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, appeared on the lotus of my heart.
Thank you, Mataji. So, one second now. I think I did not highlight here. 1 second. Yes, Mataji, you can start with the purport. First paragraph.
Yes, The word bhava is significant here. This bhava stage is attained after one has transcendental affection for the Lord. The first initial stage is called Shraddha, or a liking for the Supreme Lord, and in order to increase that liking, one has to associate with pure devotees of the Lord. The third stage is to practice the prescribed rules and regulations of the devotional service. This will dissipate all sorts of misgivings and remove all personal deficiencies that hamper progress in devotional service.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. So all the different 14 stages that we had seen in the second chapter of Canto 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam, we see in the life of Narada Muni how he went through all that by the mercy of the devotees, Bhakti Vedantas, he got an opportunity to serve, and subsequently now he's bringing into practice the learnings from the association with the Bhakti Vedantas. So Narada Muni himself is very amazed to see the potency of that particular outcome of association with such great souls, that by following that particular process, he has got the darshan of the Lord, the final perfection in his life, what he strived through, all through right now. He basically tolerated and still went ahead even after difficult circumstance of losing his mother. Then he went through many attractive places. He went through many scary places, then meditated on the Lord, and finally has got the final benediction, the darshan of the Lord. Similarly, we also see the power of hearing, that there is a wonderful verse, I think, which is there in the subsequent slide, how by hearing about the Lord from the pure devotees, what Narad Muni managed to do, one can reach the highest success, highest perfection in one's life. Similarly, we also have many verses in Srimad Bhagavatam glorifying how this particular message of Lord Krishna, either we can hear from the pure devotees or even from the mouth of pure devotees in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam commentary by Srila Prabhupada, if we let it enter our heart by hearing it or by reading through it, then Lord Krishna is definitely manifested within one's heart. That means we can see the Lord, we can perceive the Lord face to face, just like we are able to see each other, those who have put the cameras on, or we can perceive a family member in front of us one-to-one. Like that, Narada Muni was able to achieve that perfection. And then in the subsequent verses, Narada Muni, he describes the beautiful form of the Lord, text 16 onwards. So actually, yeah, text 16 is this particular text, and the next few verses. Is there any other devotee who would like to read? Ishwari Murari Priya Mataji Jagadananda Murari Prabhu. Lalita Mataji, you can keep the hand on, so it's easier for me to ask you that. Only the English, Mataji. Oh Vyasadev.
Oh, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
Oh,
Krishna.
Vasudev, at that time, being exceedingly overpowered by feelings of happiness, every part of my body became separately enlivened. Being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, I could not see both myself and the Lord.
Yes.
Purport.
Yes. Purport, you can read only the highlighting part, Mataji.
Spiritual feelings of happiness and intense ecstasies have no mundane comparison. Therefore, it is very difficult to give expression to such feelings. After seeing the Lord, all the senses became fully awakened.
Awakened to render service.
To render service unto the Lord, because in the liberated state, the senses are fully efficient in serving the Lord. As such, in that transcendental ecstasy, it so happened that the senses became separately enlivened to serve the Lord. This being so, Narada Muni lost himself in seeing both himself and the Lord simultaneously. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, ma'am. So we see Narada Muni is having various spiritual ecstatic symptoms because of getting personal darshan of the Lord, and till now the Lord has not appeared in front of him, but this darshan is within the heart, like we saw in the earlier verse. Rudhi asin me shanair hari. Immediately Lord manifested and Narad Muni could get his darshan, but that was within the heart of the Narad Muni. But by having that darshan within the heart, Narada Muni felt complete satisfaction and he felt lot of ecstasy, and all his senses became separately enlivened. And Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, this particular feeling of happiness and ecstasy by Narada Muni, it is very difficult to do justice to this by putting it in words. So such a ecstatic feeling Narada Muni got when he got darshan of the Lord. And in regard to this, there are so many, practically unlimited number of verses in the scriptures, different places where Lord's beautiful form has been described by various devotees. In one particular context where this is Narada Muni describing to Dhruva Maharaj. Narada Muni describes the beauty of the form of the Lord by saying it is Sarva Saundarya Sangraham. What does Sarva Saundarya Sangraham? It means, like a while ago we saw that Narada Muni, as a 5-year-old boy, he went through many attractive places which had beautiful gardens, beautiful lakes with swans and everything in it, lotus flowers. So even on the earthly planet, we do see many places which are extremely beautiful and attractive to the material senses. But imagine this particular earthly planet, it has hundreds of such places, not hundreds, thousands of such beautiful places that are extraordinarily beautiful. But this earthly planet itself is a small, tiny planet in one particular Brahmanda, one particular universe. And similar to this universe, we have hundreds and millions of universes in this cosmic manifestation. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu considers one particular universe like a mustard seed in the bag of a mustard seed. If we are carrying a bag filled with mustard seeds, is it possible to count the number of mustard seeds in the bag? Probably billions of mustard seeds can fill in. Okay, I don't know the number, but huge number. Even to measure it will be a very tedious task. So those many universes are there in the cosmic manifestation, and the beauty of so many unlimited beautiful scenes or places in this cosmic manifestation is nothing when we compare it against the spiritual world. And the beauty of entire spiritual world and the cosmic manifestation, material world, compared to Lord Krishna's beauty, it is again considered as nothing, no comparison at all. So that's why such great devotees of the Lord, they consider Lord Krishna's form as Sarva Saundarya Sangraham. That means if we take together the beauty of all the entire material and the spiritual creation, still it cannot compare against the beauty of Lord Krishna. So we are not going through the other parts of the verses. You can check through at your leisure. And there is also a beautiful verse. Hang on, where is it? I think it will come in the subsequent slides, where it is mentioned the benefits of meditating on different beautiful limbs of the Lord, how a devotee not only feels enlightened, but it also drives away all one's lamentation, all one's miseries in one's life. So we will go through this particular shloka now. Lalita Vinodini Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
You can recite through the verse also, Mataji, if you are comfortable.
Rupam bhagavato yattan manakkantam suchapaham apashyan sahasotaste vaiklavyan durmana iva. Translation.
So before we go to the translation, Narada Muni is describing the form of the Lord as Manakantam. It is very enchanting, completely satisfying to the mind, and Suchapaham. Suchapaham, that means it drives away everything, all the disparities, all the lamentation within the mind of the devotee. Apashyan saha sotaste. That means although the form of the Lord appeared within the heart of the Narada Muni, the darshan did not last for very long. And the same darshan, which was mana kantam suchapaham, it drove away all the lamentation, it completely enchanted, enlivened Narada Muni's mind. That darshan of the Lord disappeared from Narada Muni's vision. Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The transcendental form of the Lord as it is satisfies the mind's desire and at once erases all mental incongruities. Upon losing that form, I suddenly got up, being perturbed, as is usual when one loses that which is desirable. Should I continue with purport, Prabhuji? The highlight.
Yes.
Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai, that the Lord is not formless is experienced by Narada Muni, but his form is completely different from all forms of our material experience. For the whole duration of our life, we go on seeing different forms in the material world, but none of them is just apt to satisfy the mind, nor can any one of them banish all perturbations of the mind.
Thank you. So using these two words that Narada Muni has used, mana, kantam and suchapaham, very enlivening, satisfying to the mind, and something that drives away one's lamentation, incongruities or disparities in our life. Srila Prabhupada is comparing the spiritual form of the Lord, which has these characteristics of completely satisfying a devotee and driving away on lamentation, versus seeing the so-called beautiful forms in this material world. Srila Prabhupada mentions that none of these material forms, neither they can completely satisfy one's mind, nor they have the potency to drive away the perturbance of the mind. So I mentioned some of these points. Yes, so the form of the Lord as a result cannot be compared to any of the so-called beauties in this material world, which apparently may look attractive. But the problem is, what does that material beauty do to our mind? Prabhuji's, Mataji's, what does it cause? Yes. See, sometimes we see advertisement where either a famous personality, a model or actor or an actress, they are endorsing a particular product. What is the first thing that comes to our mind when we look at them?
Attraction.
Sorry, come again, Mataji.
Attraction, Prabhuji.
Attraction, yes, attraction, but in a way, attraction that if we start imagining ourselves in that particular position, say if a person is endorsing a particular bag or a particular outfit, we start considering ourselves that maybe when I'm wearing such an outfit, I would also look that beautiful. So that attraction is not really satisfying to the mind, but it is constantly increasing our desires. It causes agitation, that our hankering for what we want in our life, it keeps on increasing. That feeling is never like, okay, if I don't have that bag, that is fine, but at least that model is having that bag, that is very nice. That feeling never comes to our mind. Our mind is always agitated by wanting to have more and more whenever we see the material beauty. On the other hand, when we see the transcendental beauty of the Lord, we never feel by seeing Krishna's beautiful decoration that Krishna has got so many nice ornaments. Should I have one similar? We never feel that. Our heart simply feels satisfied that how beautiful Shri Radha Govinda or Shri Radha Madhav ji or Shri Radha Shama Sundar ji in various ISKCON temples, how beautiful they are looking because of the decorations that devotees have put on them. So the Lord's beauty, it gives us the feeling of satisfaction versus the material beauty, which increases the feeling of wanting or agitation or hankering in our life. Any thoughts, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, on this? The difference between the beauty of the material form versus the beautiful form of the Lord. All of you agree with this point, or you have any thoughts to be shared? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji, we agree. I agree.
Hare Krishna. All right, we proceed. Actually, there is one group exercise. I just want to finish that today. Otherwise, we will take very long. So I won't go through this text, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, you can go through subsequently, okay, when I share the slides in the interest of time. Yeah, I think this verse is very important. So this we will cover. So this is the description of the beautiful form of the Lord, which is given by Lord Kapila to Mother Devahuti, where he mentions that how, in fact, the whole chapter, if you see from text 1 itself, Kapila Muni is describing the various bodily limbs of the Lord and how meditating on the beautiful form of the Lord is very beneficial for a sadhaka, for a practicing devotee. Vipina Vilas Krishna Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. You want to read through the translation?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dandas.
Only translation, na Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Translation: Narada's meditation on the Lord. A yogi should similarly meditate on the most benevolent smile of the Lord, Sri Hari, a smile which, for those who bow to him, dries away the ocean of the tears caused by the intense grief. The yogi should also meditate on the Lord's arched eyebrow, which are manifested by his internal potency in order to charm the sex god of the sages.
Thank
Lord Kapila's instruction to Mother Devahuti, I think. Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So we see that different bodily limbs of the Lord, if we meditate, especially it is mentioned that what happens if we meditate on beautiful lips of the Lord, what happens when we meditate on the beautiful eyebrows of the Lord, it will drive away various anarthas within our heart, and our hankering will completely get counteracted, it will completely get resolved. On the other hand, the satisfaction of the heart we will get by the removal of those anarthas. That is the difference between meditating on a material beauty versus meditating on the transcendental beautiful form of the Lord. So now we come to the portion that Narada Muni, the culmination of whatever spiritual pursuit that he was doing after association of the Bhakti Vedantas, it was achieved by the darshan of the Lord. But the sad part was that it lasted only for few moments. Immediately, Lord appeared within the core of his heart, and in few moments, the darshan of the Lord has disappeared from Narada Muni's vision, and subsequently, Narada Muni has become very perturbed. Here it is mentioned, I suddenly got up. So he immediately jumped from that place when Lord's darshan disappeared, and being perturbed means being disturbed. Being perturbed, as is usually when one loses that which is desirable. So understand Prabhuji's Mataji. Say, for example, we don't have relish something in our life, any particular type of enjoyable thing. Say, for somebody who has, like when I started my career in 2003, one devotee asked me, Prabhuji, did you enjoy pizza or burger? Something he said. Pizza in that particular, not pizza, burger in that particular place in the temple or anything. And my first question to him is, what is exactly a burger? So because I had not relished it till that time, I did not know the pleasure, and as a result, there was no neither despondency nor lamentation that I did not get to enjoy it, because I simply did not know how does it taste, right? So for a person who has not felt that particular enjoyment in one's life, the feeling of losing it is not painful, because we simply don't know how much enjoyment it gives when we had it. Similarly, Narada Muni, while earlier also he was searching for the Lord, he did not have that experience of gaining the personal darshan of the Lord. But in this scenario, what has happened, that Lord has given him the darshan and he completely got enlivened. We see how different senses of his were enlivened, and he started experiencing transcendental ecstasy in his bodily symptoms after seeing the darshan of the Lord. But same Narada Muni, of course, he has not yet become Muni. Same Narada, as a 5-year-old boy, when Lord's darshan disappears from his vision, he becomes completely disturbed, sad, morose, and again tries various means, as we will see in the next verse. He tries to again get that same darshan by trying to repeat the process, but he is not met with the success. So I would just read this translation, text 19. I means Narada Muni, I desired to see again that transcendental form of the Lord, but despite my attempts to concentrate upon the heart with eagerness to view the form again, I could not see him any more, and thus dissatisfied, I was very much aggrieved. So Narad Muni becomes completely morose and aggrieved because he has lost the sight of the Lord, which was available to him only for few moments. So then we see that for such great devotees who at some point in their life, not some point, the example that we are going to see today is of devotees who had the transcendental pleasure of association of Lord Krishna throughout their life. So when Lord Krishna finally concluded his pastimes on the earthly planet, the separation from Krishna was very, very painful for such great devotees. And the example I have taken here is of Pandavas. So let's go to that particular chapter in Bhagavatam, which is chapter 14 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna's disappearance. So in this particular chapter, we see that after the battle of Kurukshetra is over, and after Krishna gets everything settled for the Pandavas, including enthroning Yudhishthir Maharaj as the sovereign king of the entire earthly planet. And subsequently, we see after some time, Arjuna, he goes to Dwaraka to visit his friend Krishna. And when Arjuna is away, Yudhishthir suddenly starts seeing many bad omens. Like here it is mentioned. A few months passed and Arjun did not return. Maharaj Yudhishthir then began to observe some inauspicious omens, which were fearful in themselves. And subsequently, the omens are mentioned like certain animals used to pass on his left, and his eyebrows and arm on the left hand side used to twitch. And Yudhishthir, because he was a Dharmasut, he was the son of the religion personified, he could immediately understand that something very terrible has happened and Arjuna is away. And what happens after he sees Arjuna coming back from Dwaraka, he sees Arjuna is completely morose. The usual charm, the smile, and the effulgence on the face of Arjuna is completely lacking. And Yudhishthir Maharaj becomes very anxious, but he doesn't show his anxiety. He shows it as a normal curiosity to Arjuna. He asks Arjuna, there are so many questions asked by Yudhishthir Maharaj to Arjuna that, my dear brother, what happened? Can you tell me why you are feeling, your face is showing so morose, the usual charm and effulgence is not there. My dear brother, please tell me whether your health is all right. You appear to have lost your bodily luster. Is this due to others disrespecting, neglecting you because of your long stay in Dwaraka? And he asks Arjuna several other questions that, did it happen that you used very unfriendly words and very rude towards anybody, or somebody came to you for protection and you could not give them protection, or in some way or other you felt short in discharging the duties of dharma? What exactly happened? Uh, why you are looking so morose? And finally he asked Arjuna, one second, where is that verse? Yes. Finally, Yudhishthir puts his extreme fear that till now he was trying to ask Arjuna in an indirect way. Yudhishthir mentions it upfront. Or is it that you are feeling empty for all time because you might have lost your most intimate friend, Lord Krishna? Oh, my brother Arjuna, I can think of no other reason for your becoming so dejected. So in this particular episode, we see that as such, Yudhishthir Maharaj was also very dejected, but he was not ready to face that reality till now. And that's why he was hoping that I just hope there is some other reason for Arjuna's being morose. Either he could not discharge his duty, either he could not protect the needy, or he was not very uh, respectful in dealing with others and he was bit being rude. Some discrepancy has happened, and I just hope and believe that that might be the reason. But the core fear in Yudhishthir Maharaj's heart, because of all the bad omens, was I just hope that Lord Krishna has not left this world after concluding his pastimes. So finally he mentions that fear to Arjuna. And when Yudhishthir Maharaj mentions that fear in the subsequent chapter of Bhagavatam, all of us will go through in a while when it comes, that Arjuna starts crying. Basically, he says that, my dear Yudhishthir, my dear elder brother, the same son of Vasudev and Devaki, who all of us we used to consider as our contemporary, and I many times disrespected him by calling him O Keshava, O Madhusudana, by different names, thinking of him as my brother and my friend. That same Lord Krishna, because of whose empowerment all of us we were able to conquer so many formidable enemies, including, of course, Bhishma and all. They were not exactly enemies, but so many strong warriors, including Bhishma, Karna, Duryodhan, Dushasan, and so many others, including Jarasandha. The same Lord who empowered all of us to act in so many wonderful ways, he has now concluded his pastimes and left the world. And seeing this particular mention by Arjuna, Yudhishthir and other Pandavas and Kunti and Draupadi, everybody, they fall silent. They are not able to say a single word, and immediately Maharaj Yudhishthir and all the Pandavas, they hand over the kingdom to their grandson Maharaj Parikshit, and subsequently start walking towards the north. So the point we are trying to explain is for a devotee who at some point in their life have experienced the joy of union with Krishna, staying with Krishna. For such devotees, the separation from Krishna is very painful. And Narada Muni is now experiencing the same emotion when Lord, after giving darshan to him for a short while in his heart, has disappeared, and Narad Muni is trying hard to repeat the same process, but Lord is not ready to appear again. In fact, after a while, there will be a message from Lord to Narada Muni. Although Lord does not give him darshan next time, but through the message, Lord tells Narad Muni that, my dear Narada, you are going to see me only that one time that you saw a while ago in this particular life. Go on rendering devotional service the way you have so far, and whatever small vestiges of the misgivings within the heart that are currently there in your heart, that purification will happen. And then when you finish your current life, when you give up your material body, then you would attain a nature similar to my own self, transcendental nature. So this we saw. Yeah, so this is a verse all of you can go through, how the association of the pure devotees and hearing from them can uplift even a fallen person. And now, I don't know whether we have time or we'll start next time with the group exercise, that what we can learn from this unsuccessful attempts by Narada Muni to again get darshan of the Lord after the Lord disappeared from his vision first time around. So maybe we just saw that verse, text 19. I desired to see again the transcendental form of the Lord, but despite my attempts to concentrate upon the heart with eagerness to view the form again, I could not see him anymore. And thus dissatisfied, I was very much aggrieved. So maybe we will go through this purport and the group activity next time, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, and now we will have quick round of questions, answer, or any sharing of the thoughts by devotees. My apologies. I think we took slightly longer than planned. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, excuse me, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji, please go ahead.
Yeah, it's not related to the lesson today. My name is not there in the result.
We'll come to that, Mataji. We'll just conclude this discussion, then I will cover that discussion also. Okay? Priya Mataji, just wait for a few minutes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions, thoughts by devotees on this particular episode of our viewing of Narada Muni's example so far? Are we all able to visualize in our eyes, in front of our eyes, what all is happening?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu. Can you tell very important two slokas in this, Prabhu, because we don't have memorizing one in this month for this. Can you help us with that?
Hang on. I can show you those verses where the words are significant. As such, for memorization, I don't think we have any. So the effect of appreciating the transcendental form of the Lord, the verse is 1.6.18. So memorization, you see, I don't want devotees to be overwhelmed. This is important. What is the way Narada Muni meditated on the Lord? How, with what eagerness, what curiosity did he approach the Lord? As a result, Lord appeared before Narada Muni without even a single moment's delay. Shaner Hare. So important verses you can note, but memorization I leave it to you, Radhika Mataji. Hare Krishna. So let me see the.
Thank you, Prabhu. Not compulsory. I will not take the test,
Yeah,
but just
sure.
Hare Krishna.
Let me also see. Yeah, and basically we refer to some parts of each of these verses, like 6:15, we refer to how Narada Muni practiced a process which he had learned from the Bhakti Vedantas, what he had heard, Yatha Shrutam, Achintayam. And Prabhupada mentions how we cannot approach the Lord by any of our concocted methods, but only what we have learned from the devotee authorities. So these three are sufficient. Hare Krishna. Any other thoughts, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, on very important aspects? We are approaching the closure of this part very quickly, and Narad Muni's life is very inspiring, to be honest. Any other questions, thoughts? If not, then I come to the unit test 1 results that I published. Okay, let me stop the live streaming 1 second.
I'll stop, Prabhu.
Okay, you can stop. So this is now coming to the results. Let me open it 1 second.